Alice was, by all accounts, an average woman living an average life. Her days were spent behind a desk, staring at a computer screen, in a job that paid the bills but did little to spark her soul. The fluorescent lights of the office hummed a dull, monotonous tune, and the endless spreadsheets blurred into one another, each day a carbon copy of the last. Every morning, she'd drag herself out of bed, make a quick cup of instant coffee, and brave the crowded commute, dreaming of a life beyond the cubicle walls, a life where she was her own boss, creating something tangible and delicious. Her evenings were spent in her cozy, but undeniably small, apartment, a sanctuary she had painstakingly decorated with mismatched thrift store finds and an abundance of potted plants that brought a touch of green to her urban existence. It was a space filled with the comforting scent of spices from her latest culinary experiment and the soft, inviting glow of her laptop screen. Her biggest dream, the one she held close to her heart like a precious, fragile bird, was to open her own little food business, a cozy cafe perhaps, with warm lighting and the aroma of freshly baked bread, or a unique spice shop filled with exotic scents and vibrant colors from around the world. But the harsh reality of her bank account always brought her crashing back down to earth. Money was tight, a constant, unyielding barrier to her entrepreneurial spirit, a dream that seemed forever out of reach, a distant star she could only gaze at. Yet, Alice found deep joy in simple things, small pleasures that brightened her otherwise ordinary existence. She loved food, truly loved it, with a passion that bordered on obsession, especially anything with a kick of spice that made her tongue tingle and her eyes water just a little, a delightful assault on her senses. And she adored reading online novels, losing herself completely in fantastical worlds and gripping narratives, escaping the mundane. After a long, draining day at work, there was nothing better than settling down on her worn but comfortable sofa with a steaming bowl of homemade spicy noodles, her personal recipe, perfected over many late nights, a fiery concoction that warmed her from the inside out, and a chilled bottle of soju, its condensation beating on the glass like tiny pearls. Her fingers would fly across the keyboard, a blur of motion as she devoured chapter after chapter of her current obsession, the outside world fading away into a distant hum. One of her most favorite novels recently was a sweeping, epic romance called Love in the Joseon Era. It was a tale that had utterly captivated her, pulling her into its intricate world of ancient Korean courts and forbidden desires, a world so richly described it felt real. The story described a passionate, almost impossible love between a noble prince, Prince Li, destined for the throne, and a humble commoner, Mei Lin, whose spirit shone brighter than any royal jewel, her kindness and beauty captivating all who met her. The narrative began with a charming, almost faded, accidental meeting, a chance encounter in a bustling market, a playful bump, a shared laugh, a clash of worlds that sparked an instant, undeniable mutual attraction. This initial spark quickly ignited into a blazing fire, leading to secret meetings under the pale moonlight in hidden garden pavilions, stolen glances across crowded banquet halls, and whispered promises exchanged in hushed tones, making them fall deeply, desperately in love with each other, their bond growing with each clandestine encounter. The novel built to a grand, dramatic climax. Prince Li, fueled by his all-consuming love for Mei Lin, bravely defied all the strict royal rules and ancient protocols, risking his very future for her. He publicly ended his royal engagement, a match arranged purely for political power and dynastic stability, a decision that shocked the entire court, and chose to marry his commoner lover instead, risking everything for true love. In the end, against all odds, they both became king and queen, ruling Xianzhou, the novel's fictional kingdom, though it felt so real to Alice, happily ever after. Their love story celebrated as a legend whispered throughout the land, a testament to love conquering all. But Alice, despite her deep immersion in the story and her appreciation for its romantic core, had a major, burning problem with the ending. Not for the main couple, no, their happiness was predictable, almost expected. Her anger was reserved for a specific side character, a noblewoman named Su Yan. Su Yan was Prince Li Wei's original fiancée, a woman who had been groomed and trained her entire life for the formidable role of queen. She had dedicated herself utterly to Prince Li Wei, loving him deeply, even sacrificing her own desires and ambitions to help him climb the difficult, treacherous path to the throne. The novel depicted her as intelligent, capable, and fiercely loyal, a true partner in his ambition. She had exhausted all her own family's considerable money and property, pouring her vast wealth into his cause, funding his political campaigns, buying loyalty, and ensuring his military strength, all just so he could become king. But in return for her unwavering devotion and immense sacrifice, he got nothing but betrayal. Prince Li Wei, once he had secured his position, simply cast her aside for his true love. The author didn't even give her an ending. She was just forgotten, dismissed, a mere plot device, her story abruptly cut short. Alice was absolutely furious. "What? That's it?" She yelled at her computer screen, her voice echoing in the quiet apartment, a raw burst of indignation. She slammed her hand on the desk with a frustrated thud that made her soju bottle clink. "What about Su Yan? She was your childhood friend, your loyal supporter. She gave you everything. She helped you rise to power, gave you all her family's wealth, and you just left her behind for your so-called true love. Screw you. That's not love. That's selfishness. That's pure, unadulterated opportunism." She typed out a very long, very angry comment on the novel site, letting all her frustration pour out into the comment section, her fingers flying across the keyboard with furious energy. This is an injustice. Su Yan deserved better. She deserved an ending. She deserved revenge. You call this a happy ending? It's a tragedy for the one who truly sacrificed. The prince is a monster, and the author is a fool for glorifying him. After venting her rage, her fingers still trembling with indignation, she closed her laptop with a snap and went to sleep, still fuming about the fictional injustice, the unfairness burning in her mind like a hot coal. The next morning, the city was bustling as usual, the familiar sounds of traffic and distant sirens filling the air. Alice, still a little grumpy and preoccupied from the novel's infuriating ending, was on her way to the office, lost in her thoughts about Su Yan's unfair fate. She imagined what she would do if she were Su Yan, how she would turn the tables. As she crossed a busy street, her mind replaying scenes from the novel, a sudden, piercing screech of tires ripped through the mundane city noise. She looked up, startled, just as a blinding flash of white light engulfed her vision. A sharp, violent impact jolted through her entire body, and then, mercifully, darkness. Her world faded to black, the last thought in her mind a desperate, fervent wish for Su Yan to get her revenge. When she slowly, painfully, opened her eyes, a strange, unfamiliar room greeted her. It was unlike anything she had ever seen in her life, a stark contrast to her cozy, modern apartment. The furniture was made of dark, polished wood, intricately carved with patterns of dragons and clouds. Silk screens, painted with delicate landscapes, divided the space, and the air smelled faintly of exotic incense and dried herbs, a scent that was both foreign and strangely calming. It looked exactly like something straight out of an ancient Chinese drama, or perhaps, more specifically, a Joseon-era novel. As she lay there, her head throbbing, a dull ache behind her eyes, trying to understand what kind of vivid, incredibly realistic dream this was, a strange, robotic voice echoed directly inside her head, clear as if it were speaking from within her own skull, yet entirely separate from her own thoughts. "Hello, Alice. Welcome to the world of love in the Joseon era." Alice screamed in terror, a high-pitched, raw sound that seemed to bounce off the unfamiliar walls, making her ears ring. Her heart leaped into her throat, pounding like a war drum, a frantic rhythm against her ribs. "What? Who are you? What's happening? Am I crazy?" she shrieked, scrambling to sit up, her body protesting with aches she couldn't place, every muscle stiff. The room spun around her, And she clutched her head. Again, the robotic voice answered, calm and unwavering, utterly devoid of emotion, like a machine. I am called System. You have been chosen to complete a task. Your task in this world is to play the role of Su Yan, the noblewoman who is the fiancée of Prince Liwei of this kingdom. Your job is to act as a stepping stone to the love story between Prince Liwei and Mei Lin, the commoner. You are to ensure their happy ending, as written in the original plot. Alice was utterly shocked. Her blood ran cold, a chilling realization dawning on her, a cold dread that settled deep in her bones. This wasn't a dream. This was terrifyingly, impossibly real. She scrambled out of the bed, her legs shaky, her mind screaming in disbelief and panic, and ran towards the door, desperate to escape this madness, to find a way back to her own reality, her own apartment, her own life. She burst out of the room, her breath ragged, her chest heaving, only to find herself in a grand, ornate corridor, lined with painted screens and heavy pillars, leading to more unfamiliar spaces. Before she could even process her surroundings, a man in ancient royal robes, his face stern and unfamiliar, appeared before her, accompanied by 2 imposing guards. The shock was too much, too overwhelming. The world tilted, and she fell unconscious again, her body collapsing to the polished floor with a soft thud. The next time she woke up, she was in the exact same spot, in the same strange room. The lingering scent of incense, the carved wooden furniture, the silk screens, it was all still there, undeniably real. This time, there was no doubt. She was not dreaming. She was truly, undeniably, in the world of the novel. A wave of utter despair washed over her, heavy and suffocating, then, slowly, a surge of defiant anger, a spark of rebellion. She got up, her limbs feeling strangely light, and walked to a polished bronze mirror, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Staring back at her was a face that was not her own. It was beautiful, refined, with delicate features and dark, intelligent eyes, exactly as she had imagined Su Yan to look. Her own face, Alice's familiar face, was gone. Panic clawed at her throat, but she forced it down, taking a deep, shaky breath. Cautiously, her voice barely a whisper, as if testing the air, she called out, System, are you here? The system answered instantly, its robotic voice still unsettling, but now a familiar, chilling presence in her mind. Yes, host. What do you want? Alice instantly yelled, her voice filled with a desperate, raw longing that echoed in the silent room. I want to go home. Take me back to my apartment. To my life. To my spicy noodles and my old laptop. This isn't fair. For you to return home, you must complete your task first, the system replied, its tone unyielding, like a stone wall. Your job is to act as a perfect copy of Su Yan and help Prince Liwei rise to power, ensuring the original plot unfolds. You must follow the narrative as written. After saying this, the system went offline, its presence receding, leaving me, Alice as Su Yan, in utter despair. The silence that followed was heavier than any noise, a crushing weight of forced destiny. I didn't get out of my room for 2 solid days. I lay in the luxurious bed, calling to the system again and again, begging, pleading, demanding, my voice growing hoarse, my throat raw, but the system only repeated the same cold, unhelpful message. You must complete your task. It was a loop, a prison of words, an inescapable fate. Even the unfamiliar handmaidens, who looked at me with worried eyes and whispered amongst themselves, tried to convince me to come out, bringing trays of exquisite food I couldn't touch, my stomach churning with anxiety. My mind raced, trying to find a way out, a loophole, any crack in this impossible situation. I was trapped, a puppet in a story I despised, a story where I was destined to be the villain's forgotten victim. After 2 days of despair, gnawing hunger, and endless, frantic thinking, I finally accepted my new, terrifying reality. I was Su Yan. I was in a novel, and I had a task. But I also had something the original Su Yan didn't. Future knowledge. I already knew many things from the novel. The characters, the political struggles, the major events, Prince Li Wei's true nature. But I still needed to understand my new reality, the precise details of my current situation, Su Yan's family, her position, her resources. I forced myself to get out of bed, to eat the food, to appear calm and collected for the sake of the servants, to start planning my escape from this predetermined fate. As I started to examine Su Yan's affairs, her family's ledgers, and her personal correspondence, I made a crucial discovery. The novel had described how Su Yan had poured all her family's vast assets into Prince Li Wei's desperate bid for the throne, effectively bankrupting her house for his ambition. I realized I had transmigrated just before that fateful, ruinous transfer of wealth. The documents were still there, waiting for my signature, neatly stacked on a lacquered desk in Su Yan's study. A cold, hard resolve settled in my heart, replacing the despair. I immediately decided not to transfer any money to Prince Li Wei. The system, which had been mostly silent during my 2 days of seclusion, suddenly buzzed in my head, its robotic voice sharp and insistent. "Host, you must support Prince Li Wei's accession. This is part of your task. You are deviating from the plot. Warning! Warning!" But I simply ignored it. I was Su Yan, yes, but I was also Alice, and I was not going to be a stepping stone for anyone's true love if it meant my own ruin and the ruin of Su Yan's family. I would not allow myself to be a forgotten casualty. Instead of following the plot dictated by the system, I decided to follow my own new path. I would not trust the system, which felt less like a helpful guide and more like a cold, calculating trafficker, forcing me into a role I despised, a role that led to heartbreak and ruin. I would use my knowledge for my own benefit, for Su Yan's benefit, not for Prince Li Wei's or Mei Lin's. My goal was no longer to return home immediately, but to survive and thrive in this new world, on my own terms, forging my own destiny. One afternoon, while walking through a less frequented part of the royal gardens, I overheard voices from behind a thick bamboo grove. It was Prince Li Wei, his voice low and urgent, and with him Mei Lin. My heart clenched, but I forced myself to listen. "My dearest Mei Lin," Prince Li Wei was saying, his voice dripping with false tenderness, "you must understand. Su Yan, she is merely a distant acquaintance, a noble woman whose family owes mine a great debt. Our engagement is a mere formality, a political arrangement that means nothing to my heart. It will be broken soon, I promise you. There is no true connection between us. Never has been." Mei Lin's soft voice replied, "But my lord, the rumors, they say she is your childhood friend, your closest ally." Prince Li Wei scoffed. "Rumors, my love. Nothing more. She is a cold, calculating woman. I merely tolerate her for the sake of my family's standing. You are my true love, my only love." A cold fury, unlike any I had ever felt, washed over me. He had lied to her. Not just to me, but to Mei Lin, painting me as a cold, calculating stranger, dismissing years of shared history and a solemn engagement as a mere formality. He was not just selfish and power-driven. He was a manipulative liar, willing to trample over anyone, even the woman he claimed to love, to get what he wanted. The innocent boy who promised me forever was truly gone, replaced by a ruthless opportunist. I waited until Prince Li Wei had left Mei Lin, then I stepped out from behind the bamboo. Mei Lin gasped, startled. Her eyes widened, recognizing me. "Lady Su Yan," she stammered, bowing quickly. I looked at her, truly looked at her, seeing the genuine kindness in her eyes, the innocence that Prince Li Wei was so cruelly exploiting. My anger shifted, from her to him. "Mei Lin," I said, my voice calm, though my hands trembled slightly. "I heard everything." Her face paled. "My lady, I don't understand." I took a deep breath. "Prince Li Wei told you our engagement is a mere formality, a debt, nothing more? He told you there's no true connection between us." She nodded, her eyes wide and fearful. "He did, my lady. He said you were cold." I gave a bitter laugh. He lied. He lied to you, Mei Lin, just as he lied to me for years. We were betrothed since childhood. Our families are intertwined. I have spent my entire life preparing to be his queen, and my family has poured vast fortunes into his ascension. He swore eternal love to me when we were children, a promise he broke the moment he found someone he could use more easily. Mei Lin's face crumpled. No, he wouldn't. He loves me. I shook my head. He loves power, Mei Lin. You are simply a convenient tool, a romantic ideal he can use to justify breaking an inconvenient engagement. He used my family's wealth, and he would use yours if you had any. He has no love for anyone but himself. I then recounted, briefly, the childhood promise, the years of my dedication, the vast sums of money my family had already spent on his behalf. I didn't need to show her ledgers, just the raw truth of his deceit. Mei Lin's eyes filled with tears, then a dawning comprehension, and finally, a fierce, heartbroken anger. He lied, she whispered, the words a raw wound. He told me he was free, that he had no one. She looked at me, her gaze shifting from fear to a shared understanding. I cannot be with a man who lies so easily, who uses people like pawns. Not even for love. Mei Lin, utterly heartbroken and disgusted by Prince Liwei's deception, broke things off with him immediately. Her initial dream of a romantic love shattered, replaced by the bitter taste of betrayal. She confronted him, not with anger, but with a quiet dignity that stung him more than any scream. You are not the man I thought you were, Prince, she told him, her voice trembling. You lied to me about everything. I cannot build a life on such dishonesty. Prince Liwei, caught off guard by her sudden coldness and the unexpected revelation of his lies, tried to charm her, to deny, to explain, but Mei Lin was resolute. She saw him for what he was, a selfish, power-driven man. This unexpected turn of events, born from Prince Liwei's blatant lies, created an unlikely bond between Mei Lin and me. We were both victims of his deceit, though in different ways. Mei Lin, with her gentle nature and keen eye for beauty, found herself adrift. I, seeing her genuine character and her own quiet strength, extended a hand of friendship. We spoke for hours, sharing stories, not of love, but of betrayal, of ambition, and of the harsh realities of the court. Mei Lin, though a commoner, possessed a sharp mind and a surprising understanding of people. She had a natural talent for design and a deep knowledge of local crafts and traditions. I realized her potential. Mei Lin, I proposed one afternoon, you have a keen eye for beauty and a connection to the common people. I have knowledge of business and resources. Why don't we build something together? Something that truly benefits Xianzhou, not just one selfish man. Mei Lin's eyes, still a little sad, brightened with a flicker of hope. And so, an unlikely friendship blossomed, quickly turning into a powerful business partnership. Prince Liwei, meanwhile, was utterly confused and increasingly desperate. In the original novel, Su Yan's immense wealth, her family's military influence, and her own clever political maneuvering had been absolutely crucial to his rise. He had relied on her completely. This time, without my family's vast assets and my own strategic help, he struggled immensely. His bid for the throne faltered, his political support crumbled, his allies wavered. He didn't have much backing to gain the throne, and without my help, he failed miserably at climbing to power. His attempts to secure funds from other noble families were met with skepticism. His efforts to rally support were weak without the Su family's name behind him. His love story with Mei Lin, once so passionate in the novel, had now completely crumbled. Without the comfortable life of a prince, without the resources to shower her with gifts and live a life of ease, without the promise of a glorious future, he had started to resent Mei Lin, blaming her for his misfortunes. Their romance, once a beacon, became a source of bitterness and arguments, ending in Mei Lin's cold rejection. I, on the other hand, used my future knowledge to develop many businesses with my inherited assets and money. I knew what would be valuable in this era, what innovations would bring prosperity. I started businesses related to transport, understanding the need for faster, more reliable movement of goods and people. I set up efficient carriage and boat routes, investing in better roads and larger, sturdier vessels, which sped up trade across the kingdom of Xianzhou and beyond. I invested heavily in spices, knowing their high demand and value in this time, establishing vast spice farms and trading networks that brought exotic flavors to Xianzhou and immense wealth to my family. And I started food businesses, using my love for cooking and my modern understanding of flavors and hygiene to create popular eateries and food delivery services that quickly became the talk of the capital. My wealth grew exponentially, and with it, my influence, far surpassing what the original Su Yan could have dreamed of. My family, seeing my shrewdness and the prosperity I brought, rallied behind me, their loyalty shifting from the failing Prince Li Wei to their brilliant daughter. Mei Lin, with her creative eye, became an invaluable partner in my ventures, especially in the food and craft businesses, bringing her unique perspective and connection to the common people. My next crucial step was to break off the engagement. Prince Li Wei's affair was an open secret among the nobles, though few dared to speak of it, fearing his wrath. But with his power waning and my influence rising, the tide was turning. At a grand court gathering, a formal event where all the major noble families were present, I chose my moment. I publicly exposed Prince Li Wei's affair, presenting undeniable proof of his betrayal and his relationship with Mei Lin. I laid out letters, testimonies, even a detailed account of his secret meetings. The court was stunned, Prince Li Wei's reputation shattered beyond repair. His face turned crimson, then pale, as his carefully constructed facade crumbled. Prince Li Wei, desperate and humiliated, tried his best to convince me to reconsider, to save his reputation and his fading claim to the throne. He came to my estate, begging, pleading, his once proud demeanor replaced by desperation. "Su Yan," he said, his voice broken, "you cannot do this. We are meant to be. This is a mistake. Xianzhou needs us together." But I simply looked at him, my eyes cold, seeing not the boy who promised me forever, but the man who had dismissed me as barren and plotted to use me for his own gain. "Your mistake cost me my dignity, my future, and nearly my family's fortune," I replied, my voice steady, devoid of any emotion. "You chose your path, Prince. I owe you nothing. The child who promised me forever died the day you declared me barren. The king I once served betrayed his kingdom." And with a firm gesture, I simply kicked him out, ordering my guards to ensure he never bothered me again. His pleas faded into the distance as he was escorted from my lands, his grand ambitions reduced to dust. After this, the system, which had been buzzing with frantic warnings and demands, suddenly disappeared. Its robotic voice was replaced by a final, defeated silence, as if its purpose had been utterly destroyed by my defiance. My task, or rather, my outright refusal of it, had broken its programming. I was free. I went on living my life, not as a stepping stone, but as a master of my own destiny. I traveled to distant lands I'd only read about in books, enjoying the rich foods and vibrant cultures of this new world. I was no longer Alice, the average woman with a desk job, nor was I the tragic Su Yan. I was myself, a woman who had defied fate and built her own destiny, free to explore and enjoy a life of immense prosperity, profound courage, and boundless adventure, with Mei Lin by my side, a true friend and partner in a kingdom we helped rebuild.